Thanks for joining us again to CISO Point of View. I'm excited to be joined by Bob Turner. Bob is the CISO of University of Wisconsin-Madison. Bob, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. Yourself?
Very well. Thanks for spending a bit of time in your very busy schedule. Bob, before we dive into the questions, and I'm going to throw a lot of questions at you, do you want to tell everyone a bit about who you are and your journey to where you are today?
Yeah. So I have been in technology and telecommunications and information security for 42 years. I started out when I was a young sailor on a submarine, and where all of the secrets and the top secrets in the submarine were in my care inside of the radio room. So back in those days, it was the data was a piece of paper that had a security marking on it. You put it in a folder, you put that folder in a safe drawer, and you spun the lock. And that was security back then, but we've evolved a little bit. So in my career, I have been in a lot of defense-oriented environments where security is exceptionally important. And then I kind of lived through the birth of the internet age in the 90s, where we started networking everything, and instead of that safe in the corner, we now had a server somewhere. But we still had the same problems. We still had to identify the data. We still had to put it in its proper location, and we had to secure it appropriately. And then after I decided not to make the Navy a career after 23 years, I moved into to the consulting world. And in that, I was really specifically addressing security issues, risk management, compliance, a little bit of consulting in the engineering of security solutions and network solutions. And I had a lot of good diverse experience in there. I worked with the Navy healthcare community, the Navy training community. We had some work in energy and justice and those kind of places. And it was just really a great, almost a master's class in understanding a wide variety of security issues. In late 2014, I had an opportunity to interview for this job here, and they made a selection, and I got to join the university in January of 2015. When I arrived here, there was a good group of security professionals. And we just kind of worked together to create a good strategy. And I think strategy is one of those important opportunities that we seized on. We figured out where the technology needed to go. We figured out what the best alignment was for the staff. We had a lot of what I'll call challenging conversations with the diverse IT staff across the university. Wisconsin is a distributed IT organization right now. I mean, it is 34 large divisions, colleges, schools, etc., and they each have many IT teams supporting specific things, like an academic department or a research project. And what that creates is an opportunity for diverse thinking, which I think is awesome. But sometimes in security, you need a little more centralized understanding of things. And one of the things I learned as a CISO that maybe other industries don't have is that you really do have to have the good communications, and you have to have that level understanding, because the top down, let's just say there's 34 tops to go down in, so 34 silos you might have to drill down into. Although we're changing that paradigm a little bit here at the university. I think in our previous discussion, we had talked about an effort that we're calling cybersecurity to the edge. In other words, making sure that you have cybersecurity infused in all of the projects on campus that are IT-oriented projects. I mean, you clearly can define what the edge looks like, and then also what the components are inside of the campus. And so my 42-year journey continues as we're really refining the things that we've done here at the campus. So we've built a security operations center, which is awesome. We have a great staff. We have a great acceptance of people understanding what the SOC is all about. We are working on deploying tools that will help everybody's information system, the edge points, the end points, the devices, talk to the SOC and give us that rich information that we need. We have a great intelligence apparatus within our campus for absorbing what is common source intel, open source intel, and a few other services that we get from our technology vendors. We have a vulnerability management program that is really more part of the central IT organization, division of IT, and we have sort of a growing penetration testing capability to do a little bit more greater intrusive analysis. Excuse me. And I think probably the last thing to really highlight is that we do risk management and compliance really well. We have an apparatus, a structure in place, and a couple of tools in place to help us work that NIST risk management framework. The understanding of the system, select the controls, build them in, test them appropriately, and then actually do the assessment when you're ready to put the system online. And then we've also ventured into what we call the continuous diagnostics and mitigation phase, which is really the monitor phase of the framework. And in understanding the things that we need to be doing after we said, okay, here's the system, here's the risk level, go operate. And probably the last area I think that is important to understand and is difficult in every environment, because it really is personalized to the environment, and that's security awareness. Right now we are deploying a micro-learning platform, which is essentially small 4 to 7 minute vignettes of understanding that you can gather, and then you assemble a lot of these experiences together, and then we issue you a badge saying you've completed your awareness training for the year. As we go into that into next year, we're going to actually have other opportunities you can use to learn and understand security, and maybe even go above and beyond the badge. So there's another bumper sticker for you.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. That's a hell of a journey.
So it is, and it's been fun. Now that's not that it hasn't been.
Not everything is fun.
Sheer
No.
terror, and it's like a roller coaster ride sometimes. But yeah.
I can imagine, but it's great that you're an optimist in life.
The only way to live, really.
I want to touch on one comment you made at the beginning when you talked about strategy. And this tends to be an afterthought, but how important is it for CISOs to really build a strategy from the ground up?
Well, so strategy without tactics is the noise before defeat. You have to have a good balance. A wise guy named Sun Tzu once said that. It is really important to understand where you're headed. So strategy is really the direction. And we believe here at the university that anything that is strategic and proactive is really the zone we want to be in. If we're in the tactical and reactive and we dwell in that, then we're never going to see the fruits of our labor really mean anything. So really the best mix of all is have a little bit of reactive strategic, have a little bit of proactive strategic, have a little bit of reactive tactical, and try to move the blob up to that strategic proactive quadrant. And that quadrant is my orientation. Yours would actually be up that way.
All right, cool. Changing direction slightly. You briefly mentioned vulnerability management as part of the broader strategy you have. What role does vulnerability management play as part of the broader strategy that you have?
You have to understand when you get that intel saying that there is a Windows exploit for Active Directory or for any other component within your operation. How are you going to deal with that? So if we know where the stated vulnerabilities from industry are, then we just have to have a way to make sure that that endpoint device gets patched at some point along the way. Vulnerability management is also understanding from a deeper level. It's not just the intel you receive, it's the things that you do. Everybody knows what the Microsoft patch cycle is. Everybody knows what the name your favorite technology patch cycles are. It's taking the time and understanding how you do that, how you manage what the regular vulnerability industry cycles are, system development life cycles are are cyclical. You got to continue going through that. But it's also having the ability to do some pointed testing to check to see if the vulnerabilities are actually there. So you listen to the intel, you do a penetration test, it validates the intel, then you know what to fix. If you do the penetration test and everything works fine, then great. Sort of like other educational campaigns. If you're doing the phishing campaign, if you test a little bit and people are not clicking on the pseudo link in there, you've made your point. Because you're never going to be 100%. You're never going to be perfect in that type of area. But it's really understanding and controlling the chaos when you find it in an area where the crown jewels are. So human resources data, student information, financial data for the university, personal financial data, stuff that is regulated by law. But it's also the research that our brilliant people at the university are creating and the solutions they're creating from that research. Those need to be protected until they're ready to be brought to market or put into circulation as academic intellectual capital.
Yeah. So talking about the crown jewels, obviously we've seen an increase, a rise of cyber attacks and certainly more sophisticated attacks in recent months and years. And I suppose I want to know what your thoughts are on the need for protecting not just the outer perimeter, but looking deep dive into your data center and looking at protecting the storage systems, the central storage systems, the NAS, SAN, etc. Have until recently kind of been not really thought about, left it to the infrastructure operations teams. And whilst it's obviously critical to detect vulnerabilities, misconfigurations across your network, servers, etc., are organizations doing anything to understand the security implications for storage systems?
Yeah, they are. We find a lot of folks are deploying NAS-like devices individually within the different security team or IT teams on campus. We went sort of a different direction centrally, though. We built what we call research drive and restricted drive. So research drive is a large cluster of storage services available. And when we did the security assessment of it and the hardening of that, we used the NIST controls and we put it at the moderate level of security, which we think is applicable across most of the research in the university. And now we have that available. It's available in 5 terabyte chunks for researchers to put their data. Great use of the tool, and then they can just worry about what the compute power is on their side, or they can do their data collection from multiple sources and just let it all sit in a storage device for until they're ready to do the next analysis, the next stage of analysis on it. We also, from the same set of technology, we created one that had a little bit stronger security controls applied. And we call that restricted drive, which is our highest classification of data, and that's that data that's regulated by law, contract, or criticality of the data. Excuse me. And there's where you put things like the personnel data, the private information, financial information that is associated with the NIST 800-171 controlled unclassified information storage principles.
Great. All right. Let me ask you a question about ransomware attacks. And in your opinion,
I hate them.
You hate them. Good answer. The right answer. But not just in your time now at the university, but throughout your career, what are your recommendations on the measures that organizations should be taking to prepare for a ransomware event?
Yeah, so I think my thoughts are changing from my earliest thought was if you have a data backup and you have a system backup available to you, don't worry about ransomware. Just turn it off, rebuild, and get back online. And that still is a good strategy a lot of the time. But let's look at what is happening now in the world of ransomware. Obviously, the cyber adversaries are much more clever. They're not only attacking the primary storage, but if you have a connected backup, that connected backup storage is vulnerable. But they're also doing things like they're attacking Active Directory, and they're looking at opportunities for there to propagate to other systems. I was just reading a recent article, and it's talking about how at some point in the future, maybe even the near future, we're going to be trying to defend against attacks where we could be profiled somewhere, and they could say, well, if I attack this particular sector of the enterprise, then that automatically will give me access to computers in this sector of the enterprise. And then the next thing you know, you've got multiple ransomware events going on campus. Digital Armageddon.
Wow.
The C in CISO, by the way, stands for cynical.
All right. So one final question, and I'm keeping you on your toes here, Bob. What are your best tips for CISOs to get a bigger seat at the table, or for budding CISOs to get that seat on the table?
Learn your audience. Learn how they understand security, and whether that audience is a director level, or whether that audience is a C level, or whether it's a board level. Learn the things that they react to. You speak in terms of dollars and cents, and Dr. Eric Cole has a great way to think about this. When you're talking to the C-suite and the board, they want to know what the risk is. They get risk. They understand risk across the broadest spectrum. So help them understand the risk, and help them understand what is the likelihood that risk is going to visit itself on your organization. And I also think that then you ought to be able to understand what the cost is. So what is the cost if it occurs not only in the cyber rebuild or whatever IT stuff you have to do, but also understand the cost to the business. And then I think the last one is, that's the cost of the event. But what's the cost to fix it? The cost to fix it is more than just restore that computer, rebuild that server, rebuild that Active Directory. The cost is address the policies, address the technology, address the professionals in the loop. How much is it going to cost to get them to fix it? So I think if you look at all of the major events that happen, there is the impact cost of the event, and then there's the residual. Sometimes it's how much does a new CISO cost. Sometimes it's how much does a new CEO cost, and the other times it's really important to say, maybe we were doing this wrong all along. Let's take a different approach, and there's going to be a cost to doing that. Right. I think if you can speak in those terms to the decision makers and the people with their hands on the dollar, that is important. But you also have to be able to translate that to the staff as well. So all the way up to the top, but all the way down below. Why are we working harder this week than we were last week? Well, we're doing that because our job is to protect the university. Yep.
Wise words, Bob. Very wise words. All right. We've actually run out of time, but I want to thank you, Bob, for joining us. You've given some fantastic advice, and hopefully we'll continue this discussion in the future. Thank you, Bob.
All right. Thank you.